This is Jarrod Horak, and in this horse racing video, I'm going to preview the 2023 Breeders' Cup Saturday program. Now, I've already previewed Breeders' Cup Friday on my YouTube channel. I've also done a couple Breeders' Cup Classic previews, and after they draw the post positions, I'm going to go through the field and give out my top choice for the Breeders' Cup Classic. And on my road to the Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby 2024 series, I'm going to cover the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile next week as well. If I have some time, I'll do some other videos as well for the 2023 Breeders' Cup. Now, if you're interested in purchasing my 2023 Breeders' Cup full cards, those full cards will be available on my website, therunawayhorse.com, on my sales page, Breeders' Cup Week. And you can also purchase my Breeders' Cup full cards at todaysracingdigest.com. And I've been doing those annual 2-day Breeders' Cup programs for quite some time. And if you're interested in reading all of my 2023 Breeders' Cup handicapping articles, go over to todaysracingdigest.com, click on the Breeders' Cup tab, and you'll find all of the Breeders' Cup 2023 articles there. And in the description in this video, I'll provide links to those Breeders' Cup products and to my Today's Racing Digest sales page if you want to purchase those 2023 Breeders' Cup full cards next week. Now I'll go through these Breeders' Cup Saturday races. I'll throw in some Today's Racing Digest speed ratings and also some past performances, and they're both provided by todaysracingdigest.com. Now, we're not going to do the Breeders' Cup Classic in this video, but I'll go through the other Breeders' Cup races for Breeders' Cup Saturday, November 4th, and we'll just have some thoughts about some of the pre-entries as we get closer to them drawing the fields for these Breeders' Cup races. But the first Breeders' Cup race for Breeders' Cup Saturday is going to be the third race at Santa Anita Park, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, 1 mile on the main track. Now, in this race, Cody's Wish is going to be there again, and he won the Breeders' Cup Mile last year, and he's one that he likes to win races, but the big problem with him is that he doesn't have any speed, so he likes to get involved from off the pace. So if he can get enough pace help, he'll certainly be a contender for the win in the stretch. But if the pace is a bit light, some horses that have some tactical speed that'll be in front of him could be dangerous. And some of those runners, Zozos for trainer Brad Cox is certainly one that could be up on the pace, possibly the pace setter, maybe the horse to catch in the stretch. Now, another horse that should be forwardly placed, but I'm not that confident in, is National Treasure. I did pick him as my top choice in the Preakness Stakes because I thought he could control the pace there, and he did just that, and he just did win over Blazing Sevens. Kentucky Derby winner Mage was third there. He was a pace compromised. And since the Preakness, National Treasure hasn't been able to secure a victory, and he's one that really does need to get the lead. But with Zozos in there, I'm not sure. I think they're going to probably end up stalking the pace in this 1 mile race. And a horse that could really work out a good trip, Practical Move for trainer Tim Yakteen. He's one that was highly regarded. He won the Santa Anita Derby, and then he was a top contender for the Kentucky Derby, but he got sick, missed that race, and he finally did return with a nice optional claiming win at Santa Anita at 1 mile on October 6th. So he's 4 for 4 at Santa Anita, and he's 2 for 2 at 1 mile, and he has tactical speed. So Practical Move looks like a logical contender for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. The fourth race at Santa Anita for Breeders' Cup Saturday is going to be the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, and they're going to be traveling 1.25 miles on the turf course. Now, for this race, the key is the distance, because sometimes it's run at 1 mile and 3/16, sometimes it's run at 1 mile and 3/8. It just depends on the track. And typically, overseas runners have done well in this race. Chad Brown has done well in this race as well. Some of the horses, Didia has been doing well. She won the local prep race for this race. That was the Grade 2 Rodeo Drive at Santa Anita at 1.25 miles. That was on October 7th. Now, she loves to win races, and I'm just concerned about the class. Let's say if she can step up and face Grade 1 horses. Fev Rover should be forwardly placed. Chad Brown has a couple. They're also pre-entered in the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile. Gina Romantica and In Italian. We'll see which way they go. In Italian certainly would be a big pace factor if she ends up in this race. You have McCulloch for Chad Brown as well. Moira, the 2022 Queen's Plate winner. Since then, she's kind of been up and down. Sometimes she's brilliant. Sometimes she doesn't quite show up and run her best race. She ran in this race last year. She didn't end up hitting the board. We'll see how she does with the Moonlight for trainer Charles Appleby. Another one to look out for. Appleby has an excellent record with his Breeders' Cup starters. So with the Moonlight could be one that could make an impact as well. It looks like a competitive race. The fifth race is going to be the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. And this will be the first race that we'll discuss some today's Racing Digest final time ratings for the horses' final starts prior to the Breeders' Cup. And the horse that has the best speed rating is Society, getting a 159. Today's Racing Digest number for her last out victory. Now, she's one for trainer Steve Asmussen that's very dangerous when she can get out there and set the pace. So she likes to get out there. And if she can get out there and control the pace and get into a nice rhythm, she's capable of really blitzing fields. But she doesn't always get away with soft fractions. And if she doesn't, maybe she'll be in a little trouble in the stretch. But as a front runner, she's dangerous. You have Goodnight Olive, the winner of this race last year for trainer Chad Brown, having a 149 speed rating in her last start. And she's one that certainly is going to be a big threat to duplicate that victory last year that she had. She likes to win races. She's very classy. She's got enough positional speed to keep the leaders in the sights, and she can get the jump on the later closers like Kirsten Busch, the local horse for trainer John Sadler, won the local prep, the Chillingworth Stakes, and got a 143 final time rating as my top choice. I liked her in her last two sprints. I always thought that she was best as a late running sprinter, and I was happy to see them turn her back in her last couple starts. So if you're playing exotics especially, watch for Kirsten Busch, possibly to rally off the pace and maybe at least get a piece of the purse. The sixth race for Breeders' Cup Saturday is going to be the Breeders' Cup Mile, 1 mile on the turf course. Overseas runners can be dangerous in this race, and if you have a quality horse from this country, they can certainly do well. Now, Charles Appleby, he has saddled the last two winners of the Breeders' Cup Mile, Space Blues and Modern Games. So he's certainly a trainer to watch. Now, Astronomer is one that if that one gets in, will be impacting the pace. Was entered and was a contender in the restricted Lure Stakes on October 28th at Santa Anita. Ended up scratching there, and they want to run in here if they can get in. Casa Creed for Bill Mott, off the pace threat, good form from Saratoga. Du jour for trainer Bob Baffert, back in top form. As I mentioned, Gina Romantica in Italian for Chad Brown, pre-entered in this race as well. Master of the Seas for Charles Appleby. We just mentioned that he's won the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile the last 2 years, and Master of the Seas won the Woodbine Mile as my top choice, and I picked him again on top in the Grade 1 Keeneland Turf Mile, but up to the mark, just got him on the line there and nipped that horse. So Master of the Seas in good form. Prior to coming to North America, he won a Group 2 at Ascot in July, so he's one that certainly looks like a contender in this Breeders' Cup Turf Mile. Maj was my top choice last time in the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. She was coming in from overseas after winning a Group 1, and she won that race at Keeneland last time, and now she's going to cut back a furlong, and she is 2 for 2 at 1 mile. More Than Looks, another horse that scratched recently, was my top choice in a video that I did for Keeneland, the Bryan Station Stakes. Just thought that race really set up for him. But trainer Cherie DeVoe and the owners opted to scratch and tried to go for this Breeders' Cup Mile, a much more ambitious spot. And Up to the Mark is one. He's also pre-entered in the Breeders' Cup Turf at 1.5 miles, and we'll see which race Todd Pletcher goes for. If he goes for the mile, he's a Grade 1 winner at 1 mile. If he goes for the 1.5 mile race, hasn't run that distance yet. The Breeders' Cup Distaff will be the next one that we'll discuss. Today's Racing Digest final time ratings. Adare Manor has the best numbers for trainer Bob Baffert, getting a 158 final time rating last time out. She loves to win races. She loves Santa Anita Park, and she's a speed horse, but she's not the only speed horse because the next two horses with the best speed ratings, Idiomatic for trainer Brad Cox in top form, has a 153 final time rating, and Randomized for trainer Chad Brown with a 152. So the three horses that all like to set the pace have the best final time ratings. We'll have to see how this race ends up playing out. Now, Randomized could have the most upside. She's a 3-year-old filly, but she is stepping up and facing some tough older horses. Now, if the pace really gets quick, a horse like Clairiere for Steve Asmussen, multiple graded stakes winner, Grade 1 winner, even though 1 1/8 is not her preferred distance, she's best at 1 1/16. She could get involved from off the pace. Maybe a horse that I don't really think can win, but maybe can hit the board. Le Davida. She likes to rally from off the pace. She has four starts at a mile and an eighth, 2 wins, a second and a third, and she was a clear second in the Grade 1 Spinster last time out. So she's one that can get involved late and possibly hit the board. Another late running 3-year-old is Wet Paint, but I'm not sure how strong the 3-year-olds overall are. The randomized probably the best 3-year-old filly in this race, and then search results for Chad Brown. Very consistent horse, almost always in the top 3. So the next race is the 8th race, the Breeders' Cup Turf, 1.5 mile on turf, and overseas runners typically dominate this race. So some trainers and that have done well. Aidan O'Brien has won this race 6 times. Ryan Moore has won the race 4 times. Frankie Dettori has won 5 Breeders' Cup Turfs. So that's the connections that are to watch. And Auguste Rodin, probably the favorite for Aidan O'Brien, 4-time Group 1 winner. He defeated King of Steel earlier this year in a Group 1 at Epsom. King of Steel came back and won a Group 1, the Champion Stakes, under Frankie Dettori at Ascot on October 21st. So King of Steel, one to watch in here. Auguste Rodin as well. So they look like the 2 best horses coming in from overseas. If a horse that's a domestic horse is going to do well, a horse like Up to the Mark for trainer Todd Pletcher, certainly going to be a contender. But I'm not sure about the 1.5 mile distance. And then More Like Goddess for trainer Bill Mott. She's 11 for 17, and she has 9 starts at a 1.5 mile with 7 wins, a second and a third. She finished 3rd in the 2022 Breeders' Cup Turf, rallying from off the pace. So she loves this distance. She's exiting a nice victory and in the Turf Classic at Belmont at Aqueduct. So she's one that certainly from off the pace could be somewhere in the top 3. Now, the 9th race is going to be the Breeders' Cup Classic. And like I mentioned, check out my Breeders' Cup Classic videos for my exclusive Breeders' Cup Classic coverage. I've also written some articles. I ranked the top older horses in the Breeders' Cup Classic and the top 3-year-olds. And I did a Breeders' Cup Classic Angles article as well. And you can find all that at todaysracingdigest.com on their Breeders' Cup page. And now we'll go to the 10th race, the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. This is going to be a tough race. It's only 5 furlongs on the turf course. You have to figure if you're too far behind in a bulky 14-horse field, you could be in trouble. So a horse that has some at least positional speed. A horse like Beer Can Man has at least enough tactical speed, and he loves the distance. 11 starts, 6 wins, a second and 2/3. He didn't run too poorly last time in the Grade 2 Woodford from an outside post. So post position could be key too. You probably don't want to be too far out. You don't want to be coming from way off the pace. Last year's winner, Caravel, she likes to run up on the pace. She doesn't seem to be as sharp as she was last year, but if she runs her best race, certainly could win. A Live in the Dream should be one to impact the pace. Notorious, maybe from mid-pack, very sharp Southern California, off the pace turf sprinter. So those are some of the top contenders. Tony Ann for trainer Phil D'Amato is one that you could look for as well. The 11th race, the Breeders' Cup Sprint, will be the final race that I'll discuss here, and I'll look at the speed ratings as well. And the local prep was the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, and Dr. Scheibel was the winner there over Speedboat Beach. It was a photo finish, and Dr. Scheibel was just able to get the job done. Now, I picked him on top in the 2021 Breeders' Cup Sprint, and he just lost by a nose there. It was just Aloha West caught him on the last jump. Dr. Scheibel took the lead, looked like he was going to win, and then he just got caught right on the wire. He only ran once in 2022, and that was in Dubai, and he ran okay, hitting the board there. And then he came back this year, and he's been in good form. So he's one with at least some tactical speed that could be a threat. Elite Power for trainer Bill Mott won this race last year. He had his 8-race winning streak snapped when he finished second to Goodnight in the Grade 1 Forgo at 7 furlongs at Saratoga. And so he's one that loves to win races from off the pace, very good at 6 furlongs. He won this race last year. He's a threat if it sets up for him. A Goodnight for trainer Steve Asmussen's having an excellent year. So he's one that certainly is going to be a contender, probably tracking the pace. I don't like the 2 horses coming out of the Phoenix, Hoist the Gold and Nakatomi. I just think that that they're probably a little overmatched against this group. Speedboat Beach for Bob Baffert has a lot of upside. He's only raced 5 times, and he's fairly fresh coming into this race, and he's going to be a pace factor. And Bob Baffert's had a lot of success in the Breeders' Cup Sprint as well. The Chosen Vron, a horse that's a California bred, and he's 13 for 17, but he's beaten Open Company before. He's won eight races in a row, and the Grade 1 Bing Crosby was his win last time. He also, in 2021, won the Grade 3 Las Barrera and the Grade 3 Affirm Stakes. And he's 7 for 8 at Santa Anita and 3 for 3 at 6 furlongs. And we mentioned Bob Baffert having a lot of success in this race. He's won the Breeders' Cup Sprint 5 times and 3 times at Santa Anita Park. So Bob Baffert is certainly the trainer to watch in this race, and he has Speedboat Beach that has a lot of speed, so he's a contender. So this race is fairly competitive. There's at least 5 horses, I think, that can win the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and certainly in these Breeders' Cup races, you're going to be looking for value. You just want to kind of find the horses that you think can win, and then watch the post-position draw and see how the betting goes, obviously, as we're going through the Breeders' Cup, and look for some value, because you're going to get Grade 1 winners, horses capable of winning Grade 1s that are going to go off at nice odds like 20 to 1, 15 to 1. And you can make some good money in the Breeders' Cup if you search for that value. And you're not going to win all the races. The good thing about the Breeders' Cup is it's 2 days and it's 14 races, and there's all kinds of different wagers that you can play. So just come up with a good plan of attack for the Breeders' Cup days. And hopefully a lot of people are going to be winning some money in the 2023 Breeders' Cup, especially if you purchase my full cards. Hopefully I'm going to have a successful year. Santa Anita is a track. I cover the Southern California circuit every day, and it's a track that I'm very familiar with, and I'm hoping to have a big 2023 Breeders' Cup. So you can purchase my Breeders' Cup full cards at todaysracingdigest.com or at the runawayhorse.com on my sales page, and go over to todaysracingdigest.com to check out that complete digest for Breeders' Cup Day. They've been covering horse racing since 1970. They've covered the Breeders' Cup since all the way back from 1984. That complete digest is an excellent product. You get past performances, analysis, all of their speed ratings, pace ratings, performance ratings, wagering strategies, and so much more. So that complete digest is a very good product that you can use as a tool to win some money in the 2023 Breeders' Cup. So check that out at todaysracingdigest.com on their Breeders' Cup page, Breeders' Cup Week. And until I see you next time, good luck at the races.